Tonight, concerns that the third wave is closer than we think.
Wouldn't it be an absolute tragedy if the worst part of this pandemic happened in the final phase of it?
As cases continue to rise, vaccinations across the province ramp up.
It was a 24-hour notice, very abrupt.
Evacuating on short notice, residents have been asked to vacate their apartments after serious safety concerns in their building.
There's people that don't wear masks sometimes on the bus, and it's too crowded.
TTC riders and advocates call for a safer transit system.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. There are worries tonight that a third wave of COVID-19 is here. New cases have been rising, and today they're up again to 1,468. The 7-day average is up by more than 250 cases in just over the past 10 days. That's as the race is on to vaccinate as many people as possible. Lorenda Redekop has the details.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
At Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto today, a very special vaccination. Phyllis Ridgway, Canada's oldest person, got her shot 3 days after her 114th birthday. She reportedly called it the best birthday she's ever had.
Thank you.
Vaccinations across the province are ramping up, with more vaccination clinics opening and the province's online portal for people 80 plus set to come online on Monday. Plus, there are 2 pilot projects for people aged 60 to 64 in pharmacies and, as of today, doctors' offices. Family doctors would like to play an even bigger role.
Doctors really know their patients better than anyone else does, which means they can identify their highest risk patients within a certain age group.
In Brampton, the mayor wants to make sure essential workers get their shots. Hundreds of Amazon workers have tested positive. Yesterday, the local medical officer ordered this entire plant shut down for 2 weeks. All staff, thousands of them, are in isolation.
It's like if you have a fire extinguisher and the fire extinguisher is the vaccine, you want to focus it on where the fires are, and that's outbreaks, and they are disproportionately in these essential workplaces.
That's as Ontario's case numbers have been rising. So are the more contagious variants of concern, making up more than 40% of cases. But many people are tired of life in a pandemic. Exactly 1 year since everything shut down the first time.
If we feel we're tired of it, it's sure not tired of us, even if vaccines are now accelerating in this province. And wouldn't it be an absolute tragedy if the worst part of this pandemic happened in the final phase of it?
One hospital that's preparing for the worst is Sunnybrook, with a field hospital it hopes it won't need to use. It's the same place where Phyllis Ridgway received her shot. One of many locations trying to protect as many people as possible and ward against a third wave.
Congratulations.
Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
As we mentioned today, the province reported 1,468 new COVID-19 cases. This is the highest number of new cases on a single day since February 7th, with the exception of March 8th, when a data issue caused the case count to be artificially inflated by about 300 cases. Ontario also reported 11 new deaths, and more than 1,100,000 doses of vaccines have been administered so far. A call for action today in one of Toronto's COVID hotspots. Transit riders and advocates want increased bus service in the northwest end of the city. They say essential workers living in the area have little choice but to take the TTC to work. As Dahlia Ashby reports, overcrowding and lack of PPE are among their concerns.
There's people that don't wear masks sometimes on the bus, and it's too crowded.
Abdi Fattah Omar wanted to avoid riding an overcrowded bus.
Yeah, that would be my bus. I hope it's less crowded.
This is not an uncommon sight along Jane and Finch.
And when do we want them? Now!
TTC riders and transit advocates hit the streets this afternoon, demanding a safer ride during the pandemic.
We'd like to see bus service increase in high-risk areas to ensure that proper physical distancing is possible.
Omar says he relies on public transit.
My financial situation will not allow Uber and taxi, so the bus is the only sources of transportation. And it's very concerning, it's very scary.
Every single day, and we call them heroes. Our frontline workers, our essential workers, get on buses every morning and go out there to keep everything going. And so many, many essential workers are here in the Jane and Finch community, here in Humber River, Black Creek.
TTC commuters and their advocates say today isn't only about a safe ride for the commuters, but for the TTC operators as well.
Also, we would like to see masks distributed on buses and at TTC stations to ensure the safety of all riders and operators.
The Toronto Transit Commission says they are distributing masks. In a statement, they say we've distributed more than 1.24 million masks to customers who do not have one, with particular focus on communities who may have less access to PPE. We asked the TTC if more buses will run in the area, and they did not comment. Local City Councillor Anthony Peruzza says
the frequency of buses on Jane Street needs to be increased. The TTC has just initiated a consultation to do just that, to look at how that can be done with maybe a dedicated bus lane or some other measures. So it's going out to the community and to the area to do that analysis, and we'll see how we can improve it.
Dahlia Ashery, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police are asking the public for help identifying a man they say chased 3 girls around a park in the West End of Toronto. Police released this security camera image of the suspect. He's described as being in his early 20s or late teens, 5'9", with a slim build and short black hair. According to police, the girls were playing near Dufferin and Bloor on Wednesday when a man started to follow them. The girls managed to run away. Police are asking anyone with information to get in touch. Residents of an apartment building in Toronto's West End are being left in the cold. They were ordered to vacate following serious safety concerns. Toronto Fire says they found high levels of carbon monoxide on several visits. Jessica Ng is live for us outside the building on Bloor Street West. A few stressful days for residents there, Jessica.
Absolutely, Marival. Now, throughout the day, we've seen residents loading up moving vehicles, packing up their things after they were told to vacate the building Thursday evening following serious safety concerns. Notices on the doors say residents were to be out by today, and many of them spoke to us and said they feel distraught and frustrated.
It was a 24-hour notice, very abrupt, but the firemen did warn us about a notice like this, but we definitely didn't see it coming.
Residents say the events that precipitated this notice to vacate started earlier this week.
So on Tuesday night, our carbon monoxide detector went off. We called 911, they sent the fire department. The carbon monoxide detector had a reading of 66 parts per million. And none of the carbon monoxide detectors that the landlord installed in any of the 4 units actually went off.
We were outside waiting in a bus they provided for us to kind of stay warm because it was about 2 hours of being outside of our houses.
You just heard from Tayson Davdani. She's a single mother who has only lived in the building since April. She describes how one of her daughters discovered that they were being told to leave and how she's feeling about it.
Said what vacate means, and I was just kind of reading it out loud, was fear. She was very upset. She was visibly upset. She was crying and not sure where we were going to go. Like, this has been a challenging year for so many other reasons. To have housing insecurity kind of be top of her mind, that's not what she should be thinking about right now.
In a statement to CBC News, a spokesperson for the City of Toronto says while building permits were issued for the repair garage, the apartments were constructed without a building permit. For life safety reasons, the building code strictly prohibits residential units in a building that is used for auto repairs and painting. Toronto Building Code also requires that the facility have more than just a single exit. Michael Cedar, you heard from him earlier. He says that he found this apartment listed on Realtor.ca and says when he spoke to the landlord and tenant board, they advised him that the leases that are here for the residents right now, they may not even be legal. I'll send it back to you in studio.
About 800,000 Canadians don't have access to their online tax accounts today. The Canada Revenue Agency has locked them out because of cybersecurity concerns. The agency says outside parties may have obtained usernames and passwords. It says phishing scams and outside data breaches may be to blame. Resolving the problem may take more than a week. In February, 100,000 accounts were locked out due to a hacking risk. Well, when you head to bed this evening, remember to set your alarm clock an hour early. Daylight saving time takes effect tonight. Clocks will jump forward at 2 a.m. The change means a later sunrise, but more hours of daylight into the evening and will last until the clocks get pushed back again in the fall. It's a live look at Windsor this evening. While some other regions in Ontario are beginning to ease restrictions, Windsor Essex is staying in the red zone, which means gatherings are limited up to 5 people indoors and 25 outdoors. It's a beautiful shot of Windsor this evening. Looks like they got the same kind of sunshine we did, Sophia.
Yeah, it was another beautiful day. And boy, what a week this was. We all adapted pretty well. The happiness was palpable, and I love how everybody got right on board, right? The barbecues were firing, the golfers were back at the driving range, the daffodils were sprouting in my lawn, and you'll have more of that eventually. But if you really liked the summer-like heat, I know we're talking about spring forward, but if you really like the summer-like heat, Mother Nature has a bit of an emotional roller coaster to take you on over the next couple days. We begin our tumble back down and below seasonal. We'll feel like -5 for Saturday overnight. We'll feel like -5 for your high on Sunday afternoon, and even colder for your evening. It'll be a day a lot like today, though. So abundant sunshine and a little bit gusty, not like what you saw on Friday, though. Boy, the winds were peaking 70, 75 kilometers an hour. We will be cooler still as you begin this work week on Monday. And then we are eyeing the potential of a messy system that could come in for Tuesday. I'll have more details on that in your long range. It really depends on all the high pressure over us and when it decides to retreat. But until then, you'll enjoy a bit of a warm up. It may come with a messy price tag this coming week.
Okay, so we'll see you for the details in a few minutes. Thanks, Sophia. A Toronto woman was shocked when she noticed what looked like a gravestone in her backyard only months after they moved into their new home in Etobicoke.
And I just kind of looked down and I saw that. And I was just in a shock.
Sana Mogul says she called the police as initially they didn't know if there was an actual grave there. The marker appears to belong to Fabien Robichaud, who died in 1967. According to public records, he was enlisted as a private in the Canadian Expeditionary Forces during World War I. He was in the 116th Battalion. After investigating further, Mogul was able to find the final resting place of Fabien Robichaud. She says he was buried at a Toronto cemetery.
So it's clear now that it's not a burial or anything like that. It's a historical plaque. I mean, obviously his family was fond of him, so they decided to keep that in his memory. And I'm very excited that I found this in my backyard, and I feel like my patio is a historical patio now.
And now she plans on keeping the plaque and even putting it in her front yard with some information so people can come and pay their respects and learn a little bit more about Robichaud. The city started its first pothole blitz of the year today.
I hope you'll be patient with these people when they're out doing their work on the pothole repairs, because they will sometimes have to close the lane of traffic. And I hope you'll understand that we're going to continue to run the city in such a way that we get this work done.
There are about 64 crews working on filling potholes around the city, a total of about 125 people. Mayor Tory says it costs about $25 to repair each pothole and that it's a necessary investment for safety. If you'd like to report a pothole that needs to be fixed in your neighborhood, you can call 311.
So 1 year after her murder, we still have not seen justice.
People in the U.S. are marking 1 year since the death of Brianna Taylor. The young black woman was shot dead when police raided her home. Coming up, we'll have more on how her legacy is being honored and the continued calls for justice. In the United States, people are marking 1 year since the death of Brianna Taylor. The young black woman was killed during a botched police raid in Louisville, Kentucky. Stephen D'Souza has more on how her life and death are being remembered.
A year to the day that police shot and killed Brianna Taylor, the anger over her death is still raw.
Until a jury trial tells us that these officers are not guilty, there's always time to indict, arrest, and convict the cops that murdered Brianna Taylor. And that's what we're going to continue to fight for.
Taylor's mother still feeling the loss of her daughter, still repeating the same calls for justice.
I'll never get to a point where I'm over what happened to her.
Last year, Brianna Taylor was killed during a police raid on her apartment. Officers were serving a so-called no-knock warrant. Police say they announced their presence. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear it. Shots were fired. Taylor was hit 5 times. The 3 officers involved that night were fired, but only one faced any sort of charge, and even that didn't directly relate to Taylor's death.
We got 2 different Americas. We got one for Black America and one for Wet America.
Taylor's death cast a spotlight on no-knock raids, a practice used in Canada as well. A recent investigation by the Fifth Estate found 4 civilians and 1 police officer have died because of those raids since 2007. Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, was charged for shooting at police whom he thought were intruders. He had his charges dropped this week.
That's a nice start, but that's not where we finished.
No, sir, right.
We gotta keep going.
Reforms have been slow. Louisville police are undergoing an overhaul. The Kentucky State Senate recently passed a bill limiting no-knock raids, but also one that would criminalize taunting police, something activists say would stifle dissent. For her mother, none of it takes away the pain.
It'll always be that sense of anger because you know that she should be here.
The promise from protesters today, their fight isn't over, and they'll continue to call out Brianna Taylor's name. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
Security forces in Myanmar have unleashed more violence against protesters denouncing the new military regime. 6 people died today, 3 in the city of Mandalay. In a separate fatal incident, protesters say authorities delayed an ambulance from reaching the wounded. Last night, protesters staged vigils in Yangon, defying a curfew. The military seized power February 1st, detaining Democratic government leader Aung San Suu Kyi. More than 70 people have been killed since the protests began. A statement from the G7's foreign ministers is criticizing China's new electoral rules for Hong Kong. China's parliament approved draft legislation Thursday, reducing the proportion of democratically elected representatives in Hong Kong's government. The G7 statement calls it a fundamental erosion of Hong Kong's democracy, one aimed at eliminating dissent. It also alleges unwarranted oppression against pro-democracy campaigners. It follows an EU report yesterday that said Hong Kong is experiencing an alarming political deterioration. Coming up, we'll introduce you to a group of people braving the cold waters of Lake Ontario to improve their physical and mental health. Stay with us. Some brave folks are taking the plunge into Lake Ontario. When gyms closed, they started a WhatsApp group to organize outdoor workouts. The initiative has evolved, and now the group regularly takes these cold dips. They say they found a way to improve their physical and mental health and a sense of community along the way.
Slowly but surely, this group really formed. We do a workout here, Woodbine Beach, and the final challenge is the ice bath, the dip.
I think finding a sense of community, for me, is my first time doing this jump and this polar dip. I'm stoked and scared. But
My timer's on.
Physical, you can get to the mental, but a big part of this is becoming aware of what is your mind telling you.
So as JJ goes in, there's gonna be a shock, but once you get over it and you catch your breath, you start to feel a profound sense of calm. After you get out, make sure that you've got your towel ready, make sure that you've got a change of clothes, you got people nearby checking on you, and that you get to a warm environment, you know, after, right? So.
it is, I mean, doing with people makes it so much better, and then that was crazy. I can't believe I did it.
It's tough, man, but it's all worth it.
So Sophia, I'm going to take their word for it.
You know
it
what?
was worth it.
They all seem very happy, so maybe they're really on to something that we don't know about, but I'm very happy just watching them.
Yeah, happy for them,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Maybe next year. At least it's been warm the last little while, so the water temperature is still really chilly though, like really, yeah, they all seem really happy. Okay, let's talk about the long range for you because we have some wrenches in Mother Nature's warm spell to talk about. A north wind is brewing for the next 24 hours or so, which is why we will feel a few degrees below seasonal for your Sunday. We should be around 4 this time of year. You won't bump back up to that till midweek. Until then, we're watching the potential of a messy system for Tuesday. Right now, though, it looks like high pressure is firmly rooted above us and anything to our south will slide on right by. But if that changes, this could be an impactful system. It's already wreaking havoc down into the deep south and even to parts like Colorado and Denver where they are seeing a ton of snow. There's also severe and tornado warned storms within this system. It's a little bit of everything and the kitchen sink. So we're closely watching this for you. But after that, we will see the warm up with the warm front associated with that storm. And then it gets cold again for the end of the week because yes, you guessed it, that emotional roller coaster is back and we have another potential messy system for the late week. All really far out, but we're watching it all for you. It is a bold reminder yet again that we are still in March. And on that vein, don't forget, I know we talked about it a little earlier in the show, but we spring forward at 2 a.m. local time for you tonight. And if you could give my kids the memo to sleep in for that extra hour, that would be lovely as well, because their internal clock's a little different.
Yeah, all I can say is good luck with that one, Sophia. And thanks for the reminder. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Before we go, we want to leave you with some photos from the Bloor Yorkville Ice Fest, where this weekend, many are enjoying more than 50 ice sculptures of different landmarks from around the world. The display will be available until tomorrow evening. Have yourselves a great night, and once again, because we can't remind you too many times, set those clocks back when you go to bed tomorrow. Tonight. You don't want to regret that tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone.